Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Councilman, Mayor, and staff. My name is Bruce Carroll. I live at 6258 Dunham Road. Moved to the city in July. Seems like a good city, seems like we got good people trying to run it. Seems like everybody wants to work on the deficit. Mr. Jackson has mentioned before 1.8, and now he's bringing up 2.8. I can't imagine trying to work through that amount. I can tell you that I worked with the city administration to work on a $1.5 million deficit. There are possible means to reduce the deficit in some of the departments you have. Your building department is basically leased out to MBIS. You're paying a huge retainer. You're also paying a percentage or a dollar figure of everything that's done in this city. There are ways around that so that you can get your department back and you can keep all of the funds that are generated, and you don't have to pay what you're paying out now. Same thing with your engineering department. You have CD, they're a good engineering firm, but they charge you a retainer. There's means where you can go and talk to them and ask them to do things the way other engineering firms do. I've been through the process. Like I said, there are things that you can do specifically with these two departments and others. I would be willing to talk to anybody that's interested. With respect to council, I believe if the mayor is interested, it should be done through him and through his law department and anyone else he has involved, because every administration I've been involved with, it is the mayor's responsibility to submit the budget and council's responsibility to review it and approve it. So any suggestions, with all due respect, ladies and gentlemen, should come from the mayor. Got a good law firm. Yeah. Mr. Montello has my contact information. If anyone is interested, I'm retired, I'm available anytime, and in case anybody wants to use the information that I've said to bash the administration for not doing things correctly. Everything that's being done right now is being done to the best of everyone's ability for what everyone wants best, which is this city to survive. There's nothing wrong with what the administration's done, just might be a couple ways to tweak it. Thank you.
Impressed with the level of passion in this room, all the leaders here are working hard. I said I'm impressed with the level of passion in this room, all the leaders here working together creatively to find solutions for the city. My name's Andrew Morris, and I don't know the rules of
What is your last name?
Andrew Morris.
Morris.
I don't know the rules of this particular platform here. I am not actually a resident here, so if I have to sit back down, I will. But I represent several landowners, and in that capacity have dealt with the city building department. I wonder if it would be okay if I presented some concerns I have on behalf of them.
It's 3 minutes.
All right. So, in working with the building department, I know I'm sure you guys have heard complaints, and my goal is not just to bash anybody, because I don't really know all of the particulars and how things came to be or who the city is. Specifically, though, it seems to be a great concern that the way that the delay, the way they kind of outsourced it, and there's kind of a delay, a backlog in inspections, to me is really hurting the city and the people that own in the city. Because now, I fully appreciate the objectives of wanting to improve the city's stock and improve everything, improve values for everybody. And that's what the building department is trying to do. But when you force someone to, before they actually get in, or have to move a tenant into a property and start collecting the rent that they're due as an owner, you force them to get an inspection, that's fine. And that's important, you know, to protect the tenants and protect the city. But what's happening, what I'm seeing is that sometimes it effectively actually blocks people from accepting rent for over 90 days. So what that means is that people don't want to purchase, that lowers values for the owner, it lowers the tax basis, it lowers the taxable income because that's rent not being taxed in the city and hurting the city. It's also causing people to want to find themselves in a difficult position. They're facing foreclosure if they don't get rent income. So suddenly they're looking at this and thinking, how do I get around it? So they're looking for ways to get around the legal system that's important. You know, you're funding the building department, all those things. So I had a couple suggestions from my perspective having to deal with it. Number one, there's got to be some kind of temporary way, you know, that someone can get a housing permit until they get approved, something like that. That would be nice. Okay, that would be one thing that would be nice. That way, people don't find themselves in this difficult position of how do I pay my mortgage? I need to rent it out now. Do I either violate the law or get somebody in now? And I'm hearing that people are being evicted. Landlords are being sued and forcing their tenants to be evicted so that an inspection can be made. Number two, I think that what really needs to be looked into is, okay, we understand you got to have the inspection. That's good, but please, why not maybe make an alternative option, expedited option? Work with MBIS. You know, how much money is it extra? Is it going to take to get somebody out tomorrow instead of? Okay, I'm just saying, okay, money, we hired it out to these people, okay? But could you charge maybe an extra $200, $300, $400? Because we're talking 3 months lost rent. Would you, if I paid you $200 tomorrow, would you give 50 to the city for our work and an extra 100 to the guy who had to work extra to do it? It would save us all.
Since your time is up, I would suggest that you take your ideas to the building department official, make an appointment with him. That might be a good idea too. And we can also talk with you after the meeting if you'd like to stay. Thank you. Moving on to the legislation, please.
Ordinance number 2014-86, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2014-27 to make supplemental and final appropriations for current expenses and expenditures of the City of Maple Heights for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014, and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and place this legislation or ordinance on its third and final reading?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Brownlee.
Being that this is a budget document, one of the most important jobs on the City Council is to manage the budget, I think that we should make perhaps an exception and actually give something 3 readings. And since we have a regular meeting coming up on the 17th, I would suggest that we put this on its 2nd reading, have the 3rd reading at that meeting, and consider passage then.
Any other discussion? Call the roll to suspend, please.
Cefaratti.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Brownlee.
No.
Turjansky.
Yes.
Agee.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. May I have a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call the roll for adoption, please.
Cefaratti.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Brownlee.
No.
Turjansky.
Yes.
Agee.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes. Thank you.
The ordinance passed by the vote, 6-1. Ordinance number 2014-87, an ordinance to make temporary appropriations for current expenditures of the City of Maple Heights for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2015, and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance is on its second reading.
Resolution number 2014-88, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health to provide health services for the city of Maple Heights in 2015 and declaring an emergency.
This resolution is also a first reading.
Ordinance number 2014-89, an ordinance amending section 1060-02B of the codified ordinances and terminating the solid waste collection fund number 251 for payment of garbage and rubbish collections in the city of Maple Heights and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance is on its first reading.
Resolution number 2014-90, a resolution terminating the rainy day contingency fund number 102, transferring the balance to the general fund in the city of Maple Heights and declaring an emergency.
This is also a first reading. There are no expenditures over $1,000 this evening, so we go right to the mayor's report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I begin my report, I would like to, with your permission, ask the Human Services Director, Linda Vopad, if she would elaborate. We had a tremendous amount of vandalism and property damage, just things that were destroyed at Stafford Park the other night, and I would ask if she would just explain to everyone here what happened and how awful this is.
I'm sorry, neglected to bring it up. I got a call on in the morning of, I believe it was Tuesday morning, from one of my one recreation worker. The Stafford Park was vandalized. The press boxes that are located by the baseball field, the large baseball field, were broken into. The doors were just demolished. All of the windows were broken. The concession stand and restroom that there had been a fire a few years ago and were all rebuilt. The lighting fixtures were all knocked out. The refrigerator and freezer that were used by a gentleman who rents our concession stand were all turned over. The locks on all the doors were broken. There is a stack that comes out from the restroom, and apparently they were going after the metal, and all of that was taken out. And then by the swimming pool, you might be familiar with the fireman's gazebo that is located right near the swimming pool. All of the railings were pulled out of the gazebo. We're hoping that the cameras from the swimming pool caught some of that on tape. We're not positive if that happened, but there was considerable damage. We're getting estimates from various places, and hopefully we will find who did it. It's a common occurrence at the park, unfortunately, and so much so that sometimes you hesitate to even go and fix it because you know it's going to be demolished again. That is in addition to all of the trash that is left there on a regular basis. The basketball courts are trashed every single night. Every night. There's trash that's just it's insurmountable. It's like if you saw the movie The Groundhog Day, that's what the guys go through every single day, going back into the park and trying to maintain it for our residents. We have auxiliary police that ride through the park to keep track, to try to stem this. This is most unusual for this time of year, which tells me that that's not a good sign. Vandalism that happens when the weather is cold and all of that vandalism drops considerably. But it doesn't seem to be doing that, and it's costing all of the residents in the park, the use of the parks, and the whole quality of life for the community is certainly affected by all of this. If you have any ideas, anything we can do, there are cameras there. Whether they were caught for sure, we're not sure. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President, for allowing Mrs. Opat to give that report. We, being the service department, are still out there picking up leaves and tree branches. We did have some pretty high winds that came through here recently that took down a lot of tree branches, and residents, some residents are still raking their leaves to the curb, which is okay for right now. We are still out there making sweeps of every street and every neighborhood and picking up the leaves that we happen to come upon. We did have a few bad instances with some snow that came in out of nowhere, and also some rain that hit about a week ago from Saturday. We did get out there pretty quickly with the salt trucks to melt the ice. We were no later than any of our neighbors that were out. I happened to go out, and Bedford had not been out yet, and neither had Garfield Heights, so we all kind of got out there at the same time. There were some calls that came into City Hall, and I believe our fire department fielded a couple of calls from residents about the icy streets, but we did get out there very quickly and get the ice melted. So even though, as you heard from our fire chief, our department responded with what men we had, we are doing the very best we can with all of the services and in getting out there with a limited number of personnel. Our hats and more importantly, our hearts go out to the firefighters, to the police officers who basically missed their Thanksgiving holiday with their family. And that wasn't just one day, that was the day after and the day after that, and you know, this went on for quite a few days. The fire was burning underneath the roof that collapsed, and you know, these guys gave up a lot. Yeah, that's what they're trained to do, and they do it very well, and they hold themselves to a very high standard. But you know, I don't think anyone ever thinks that we're going to have a catastrophe like that hit on a holiday. And I can't thank them enough, and even the merchants and the residents who brought food and whatever nourishment, water to them to keep them going. And you know, for people who talk about, and we've heard this for many years, about regionalism and why it won't work and how it won't work, and we've had regionalism for 30, 40 years. It's called mutual aid. That when we need someone, we call them. When they need us, we respond to. And that has happened long before any of us sat up here, even myself. I mean, we've had mutual aid for many, many years, and it works out very, very well in a situation like this. So the good news is the fire chief or the captain didn't mention that the owner is going to rebuild. He's committed to Maple Heights, and he loves the city of Maple Heights, the location, the access. Couldn't say enough good things about the city, about his employees. It's my understanding that all weekend long the employees were showing up there to see what happened and where they used to work, and they were in tears. They were sobbing, crying, and it's my understanding that the owner is sending a bus there every day to pick those employees up and drive them down to the facility, his other facility in Canton, Ohio, so that they do not miss work, and they're keeping their jobs and keeping their households and their livelihoods, their lives running. And when have you ever heard of that kind of a gesture? That's some super kind of company and super kind of owner. They're losing, you can't even put a dollar amount on the revenue that they're losing around the holidays, whether it's candy, cookies, flowers. You know, Christmas is a few weeks away. They're really scrambling to meet their orders and keep the shelves in their stores filled. So we're committed as a city, I think we all are, to help them and expedite anything they need in rebuilding their facility. Obviously, that's going to take time. But I was told that they may even expand the facility in size and even make it bigger. So that's all good news, because they are one of our are more larger taxpayers, and you know, the city lives off of income taxes, so we look forward to the day when they will rise again and open their doors again for business. And with that, I'll conclude my report. Thank you.
Madam President, I'm sorry, just to add to the mayor, I wanted you to know that the people from Fannie Mae, the employees from Fannie Mae, this is the second year in a row that they did a food collection for our food pantry. They delivered it the Friday before Thanksgiving, before the fire.
People with good heart. Thank you, Mayor. And moving on to Councilman Cefaratti, District 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to touch base on the same subjects as the mayor. I want to thank the service department and all the city departments for staying steadfast in their responsibilities. It just shows that if you stick with it and just be continuous with it, you can do a lot of things. I also wanted to personally thank our fire department, the gentleman there, police department, and all of the cities that helped out with this. This is a perfect example of the skill and the training that they do over many years, and that's how important it is, because I work with a lot of those companies in that complex, and they are very thankful for what they provided, and it just kind of just shows the training, the teamwork, what can be done and what can be accomplished. So thank you very much for the report.
Thank you. Councilman Jackson, District 4.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I too want to commend our fire department, police department, for a job well done, and more so, no one was hurt. But if you listen to part of that what could have happened if that ammonia part of that building had been breached by that fire, with the potential loss of many hundreds of people's lives. Just again, thank you to the fire department. I'll start like I'm going to be starting for a while. 2.8 is what we got to overcome over the upcoming years. $2.8 million, which drives a lot of the things that we do up here. It drives probably everything that we do up here. And some of the things you're not privy to knowing, so I want to make sure that I just kind of give you a little insight on some of the things that happen. But before I do that, one more thing I always want to do too. If you love your city, I'm sitting here. Thank you, Tony. She started it. We had an addendum today that we voted on. And there's going to be, you're probably going to hear some things that we shouldn't have or we should have, if it's legal to do or not. One of the things that drives, I think, everybody's vote up here when it comes to things is a couple of things. A reading of the ordinance, not just part of it, but all of it. And also we have a law department that advises us. And I think if anybody out there has ever hired a lawyer, you ask him what you should do, he tells you, and I would think most of 99% of the time, that's what you would do. And that kind of drives our vote to a degree up here too. And then that, the 2015 budget, we're still going to be looking at that. I want to state, I'm committed to the fire department and the service department and to the police department, but there's somebody else I'm committed to too, and that's our seniors. Well, when you think about our age, our children don't work, but we take care of them, we pay for their schools. Our seniors have worked already. The people who work and pay taxes should take care of them in their golden years. I think it is so important that we make sure that they're taken care of through this Human Services Department. So in still reviewing this 2015 budget, I know myself with other council people up here, we're going to look and we're going to do whatever it is we can to try to keep that Human Services Department open. And we need your help. You heard Ms. Vopan talk about a fundraiser. If you can, please contribute. If you know other residents who can, ask them to contribute. Now, I also have some good news. And this is something that I want to pat myself on the back a little bit. I'm very proud of this. I have a neighbor across the street, 93 years old, a week ago. The neighbor on the other side of her and myself, we have been talking about this particular neighbor and her house for quite a long time. If you could see pictures of her roof, the shingles were literally falling, sliding off of the roof on her house. And it had been that way for a long time. She lost a daughter a couple of years ago, which was the breadwinner in her house. And me and my neighbor have been asking ourselves, what could we do to help her? Well, sitting around one fall day, we said, what about let's start a fundraiser for her and her roof? And it took a while, but I'm happy to report that we raised enough funds to put a roof on her house. And I would gather to say, thank you, dear brother. It's very, very rewarding feeling seeing those contractors come out, and they help. They did it at a reduced cost. We got the materials. A lot of it was donated. And the city kicked in with making sure that the permits were taken care of and everything just worked together. And sit across the street from that and to see that company pull up with their trucks and all those shingles and stuff, and they probably had about 8 workers, and they did it in a day. They just came out and just blitzed through it and did it in a day. Was a very good feeling. So I'm going to say, if you know somebody who needs some help, why don't you get together with some of your friends and family and do what it is that they need done that they can't afford to do. Why not? In the report.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.